again, and welcome to our 6th and final episode in Season 2 of the History She Wrote book club. This time, we're tackling the Szpiorsky book, The Beautiful Mrs. Seidenman, about a group of Poles living under Nazi occupation in 1943 Warsaw. And today, in our final episode of Season 2, we'll be finishing and wrapping everything up. A warning in the beginning this time. Remember, we're discussing this book with full spoilers. Since nearly every fate is foretold in the earliest pages, there aren't really plot twists being exposed. And this is not the sort of book that can be discussed at all without spoilers. But just as a matter of politeness, there will be spoilers. This is the chapter in which everything wraps up. Although we already know how it mostly ends. But first, we're treated to something Szpiorsky does masterfully, bringing a character to life through the eyes of another. In this case, it's through the eyes of Professor Vinier, the former math teacher of Henio and Pavelik. Vinier's beloved home happened to fall within the ghetto boundaries when they went up, and so he was forced to look for accommodations elsewhere. It was a loss he never recovered from, and the short scene when we meet him while he waits for the tram presents his thoughts of his talented pupil, Henio, whom he had lost track of. And then, suddenly, Professor Vinier dies. His burial takes place during the ghetto uprising. We also get a look inside the thoughts of the German officer Stucker, who handled the Seidenman affair. He enjoys riding horses, and while on horseback, he ruminates about the possible future if Germany loses the war. As he sees it, it's a future of Europe's moral and physical decline, when Europe's heritage will be destroyed, and which will usher in the age of the barbarian. Stucker's thoughts go no deeper. He truthfully has no further depth. This is the world as he sees it. And there's no other possibility. Although we know how Mrs. Seidenman's story ends, it is in this chapter when she learns what was involved in springing her out of Gestapo headquarters. How many people, how much was risked. And she learns it from the most peripherally involved character of all, Mr. Korda, who is still blind to the fact that she is a Jew. As it all falls into place for Mrs. Seidenman, she brings out the essence of the book in her thoughts. He told her about his visit to Pavelik. She understood then fully that her rescue was the end result of the fears and efforts of many people. If one link had failed, she would have been lost. My God, she thought, here I was thinking that I was a lonely, unloved woman. I was wrong. I'm not alone. No one is alone here. Poland, she thought, my Poland. It is these people who are Poland. This memory will remain with her forever, even as she is shunted into a Parisian exile, all alone and far from the Poland which saved her and then cast her out. But Mrs. Seidenman's story is not how the book ends. Instead, it ends with the child Josia, who was raised as a Catholic, Marizia Viviora, by Sister Veronica. She survives the war and indeed remains fond of Sister Veronica and grateful for her survival. But she doesn't remain in Poland. Josia does not retake her old name, and indeed, it is never specified if records remain of who she was born. But she does know she was a Jewish child who survived. And it is as Miriam Weber that she emigrates to Israel. Her future, like her past, will not feature peace. The snapshot painted by Szpiorski's novel is one so lifelike and so filled with the extraordinary terrors and everyday petty problems of its characters that it seems highly likely he drew on actual experience when writing it. Szpiorski's father, Adam, was a historian and activist who took part in rescuing Jews, as well as establishing underground university classes for Polish youth. And he was interned in Sachsenhausen concentration camp in the late days of the war. Perhaps this is how such a vivid picture managed to translate to the written page. And it seems likely that such memories would surface during martial law and the crackdown on solidarity, when people again began to disappear from life, as though they had never existed. And when Szpiorski himself was imprisoned by the communist government. Not that Szpiorski's personal story is without its issues. After his death, it surfaced that he had acted as a collaborator during the beginning days of communism. His own story comes full circle as much as his characters. Thank you for joining our second season of the History She Wrote book club. I certainly hope you enjoyed this peek into a small but extremely vivid part of the long and rich history of Poland. And if you love this book as much as I do, I highly recommend a tour of Warsaw with our Polish history expert, Marta. Marta can take you to all the sites in the beautiful Mrs. Seidenman, and as well tell you all the stories of a city reborn from its own ashes. It's all well and good to visit a city, but it's even better to understand it. And Marta is the perfect person to get you there. Next week, we'll return to our regular schedule of podcasts and History She Wrote current events. And in the meantime, please check out our trailer for Centuries, a series about Polish history.
Oh, I love it!